It's the first day with the McLaren back in the garage, and I am stoked to be working on it again here at home with all my tools and no chickens climbing on it. Main priority today is to get all the covers back on, the exhaust and everything, and kind of just finish it back out. Since I think all the mechanical work here is done, there may be a leak or two we still need to button up and stuff, but I can put all the exhaust and engine covers and stuff on for that. Besides that, just small stuff. The door panel still isn't getting power, and just random other dumb little miscellaneous things. The freaking fuel door needs to get figured out. That's actually pretty much it. I was trying to list off more things, but there's really not much more to do. Anyway, that all being said, let's just get straight to work, shall we? It is at this moment I actually realize all the bolts and brackets and clamps and stuff are all at Ryan's house still. So I'll probably get those tonight, but we'll probably start on the front. I'm just gonna clean things up a little bit right now, just in preparation to install everything. But that's pretty much it, man. I guess let's just get to cleaning this first, and then we'll move on to the front. Well, I decided just to head over to Ryan's now instead of moving along to something else. So I'm gonna go pick up all the bolts and brackets and clamps. Tonight I can't help but think just on this drive just how blessed I am and how happy I am to be in the situation. Even though I got no money in the bank right now, I've got stuff I can sell if I need to. There's not a whole lot to complain about. It's kind of stressful. As I grew up, I was taught, be smart with everything you do and don't buy stupid stuff like cars, Not a wise financial investment, that's for sure. How are you? Just got the exhaust back on, and it's the first time I've seen it looking like this for a while now. Can't believe it is now attached to a new engine. I'm sure it's not gonna sound all that much different, but there's just something about having exhaust in here that just makes me happy. I don't think I'm actually gonna put the exhaust cover and the engine cover and the spoiler back on just yet. I'm gonna go ahead and just clean this thing up. It is very, very dirty. There were freaking cats sleeping up here. There were freaking chickens walking all over this thing. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and just clean this thing up a little bit, and then we'll move on. All right, time has come that I actually install this exhaust like all the way. I got all the bolts loosely where they all need to go. So I need to actually get the bolts this time, since this is the last time, hopefully putting it back together, get them all completely perfect. So anyway, let's get to it. Wow, there it is. That looks fantastic. Perfect, zoom in on this thing. Sheesh, dang. So now the exhaust is perfectly lined up. I want to do a couple things tonight as today comes to a close. First of all, I want to create a detailed list, a little checklist for us. All that I know that we need to do still. That'll kind of create just a structure for me to kind of work through. After we create an awesome list, I want to do the SAS, the steering angle sensor. I want to figure that out because that's going to take off limp mode and the power steering fault and the hydraulic faults that we're still getting, suspension faults we're still getting. It is all based on that one freaking sensor that's reading rotated too far. It could be a super easy job. It takes me 30 minutes to an hour to do, or it could be that I need to buy a new part for it and wait for shipping. So I want to get that done first. But now that there's no more big mechanical issues, it's literally all just finishing work and some dumb little stupid things still. This is off the top of my brain, so I'm gonna try to go in order of importance, but we'll see how I can do. SAS Faults, finish, trunk tub. I will put some optional things on here as well. Install wide body skirts, shakedown drive, get the juices flowing, diffuser, install wheel liners, new TPMS, receiver, alignment, fix weather strips. I think that's gonna do it, dude. That's all we need to do pretty much, I think. The first 3 or 4 are things I'll actually have to figure out. Everything else is kind of just monkey work, installing things and little trim pieces and stuff. I put engine swap on here just for the satisfaction of wiping it off. Engine swap is officially off the list. That was a massive project. All right, let's move on. SAS faults. Starting on the steering angle sensor task. First up, obviously, is to pop the steering wheel airbag out, which this will be like my 19th time doing this or something. It's been a minute though. I did a whole engine swap since last time I did this. Alright, this is the part that I'm now needing to figure out. So I can pop this clock spring unit out, and then in the back of it should be circuit board with some gears on it and stuff. So I'll reconnect the battery to the car now. I'll pop the clock spring out, and I'll see if I can get a pick in there and read the live data at the same time with the Autel scanner, and then potentially turn the gears and get that reading back to 0 that it needs to be at. Because apparently it's 640 degrees rotated left for some reason. Hopefully it's as easy as this. I don't want to take the whole freaking steering column apart again if I don't have to. All right, so here's the clock spring. There are the gears, but they're attached to the freaking clock spring. How does that even happen? It's reading, it's like freaking 4 full turns to the left, but that's not even physically possible because the clock spring can't even rotate that far. So I have no idea how it's reading this, because that makes no freaking sense. All right, let's hook up the battery again to the car. Hopefully this doesn't screw anything up. This build has come down to me drinking coffee from a whiskey glass. Let's go to steering angle sensor. Man, I am freaking tired. I just hit a freaking wall, so I made coffee. But man, live data, thank you. So I put it in, it said unable to communicate with the, I know you can communicate with the control unit. Does it need to have the steering wheel plugged back in? But it was just reading it just fine. What the flip? The steering angle is as it should be for the wheels straight. I know I mentioned this in the last video, but it's straight and it still says it's at 650 degrees off to the left. So I'll go ahead and try to get you this shot where if you can see, as I'm turning it, it goes obviously up and down. So this is straight. This says 650 degrees to the left. So I need to go 650 degrees to the right, and hopefully that'll solve all our problems. So these are the gears that I'm talking about. This big one here is from the clock spring itself. And then that one drives these 2 smaller gears, one here and then one down there. And this circuit board is the steering angle sensor that actually sends the signal over to the hydraulic pump. If the steering pump's not getting a correct signal from this, none of the other hydraulic systems work. So I'm gonna loosen up these 4 screws here, and just a little bit because there's springs holding this in. And I did dissect the old one that I knew was bad. You take these screws out and it pops off and springs shoot everywhere. So you don't want to do that. So I'm going to loosen it a little bit and see if I can just get those gears to pop ever so slightly out. And so I can just kind of free spin each one very gently in there. All right, nothing to it but to do it. Let's just start turning these gears and see what we can figure out. We are entering some springy territory here. But if I make one mistake here, I gotta buy a whole new $1,600 unit. Let's just try to not have that happen if possible. I'm gonna start turning them now. Just need to get a slightly bigger Allen key here to slide underneath this to separate these teeth. Ah, yeah, there we go. That'll do the trick. Okay, so I need to turn it clockwise. Oh yeah, here we go. All right, so just for scientific purposes, now I'm going to screw this back in just slightly so I know for sure it's not going to read improperly. So I'm gonna go ahead and install it again really quick to just verify that that was the correct gear that we're spinning. I spun it like 10 degrees and now it says it's at 1,010 degrees. What are my freaking eyeballs even seeing? It makes, so when you turn the clock spring left, like you're turning the steering wheel left, this makes no freaking sense. Absolutely zero freaking sense. What? Yeah. I mean, that's right, but ooh, negative 1,010 degrees. And I literally turned it 10 degrees and it jumped 400 degrees on here. I have no freaking idea. I'm just gonna turn it back now and see if it fixes it. That's all I can really do. Now it goes back down to 650. The freak, am I, what the freak? Okay, I'm gonna turn it the other direction then. Negative 293 degrees, so we are going in the correct direction. Okay, well, that's promising. All right, that should still be straight. Negative 108.5 degrees, we're getting there. Dude, this actually may fix it. I'm really hoping, and if I turn it, yeah, it still does exactly what it should. Dude, I think we're actually onto something here. Almost there, I am figuring out, I'm at currently 70 degrees now. Oh, that's 70, not negative 70. Oh, frickin' seriously. I spun it so fast I couldn't see how many teeth I I did. We're still at 70. Oh, I'm really just hoping this fixes it, man. I'm getting one tooth clockwise. See what that does. 130 degrees. The flip. Oh, that's why. Negative 110 again. What the frick? So 0 is right there, which is about 45 degrees off what it needs to be. All right, I'm just gonna do it again. All right, one more tooth clockwise. It's just at 110 all the time now. Oh my gosh. This makes absolutely no sense. Negative 290 now. All right, I'm gonna cut you guys off again and then just get you back when I'm actually freaking done with this. I didn't really show re-gluing it, but I had to re-glue these little door caps. So anyway, today I'm just gonna take the tape off and hopefully they held. Very nice. Oh yeah, nice. Fixed. Yeah, nice. Go ahead and move along to this door. This weather stripping absolutely sucks. From factory, this is just like horrible. I got a sheet metal thing. Let's see if this will work. Oh, that works a treat right there. There we go. I'd say that's fixed. Very nice. I actually decided to go back in and actually seat it a lot better, and it's a lot tighter when you really push the sucker down. You know, I just didn't want to put too much pressure on the actual fiberglass lip this sits on, but I think that's actually how you're supposed to do it. Let's get this like super, super tight. Much tighter now, that's for sure. But yeah, when I was fixing this door panel, remember this had ripped off, and so I actually had to like panel bond it and push it back down. It wasn't perfect in this little section, so I think this is just catching the topmost point of the window and obviously ripping it off a little bit. But a little bit of tweaking, this will be good to go. I think even right now it'd probably be fine. I don't want to open the window yet though. Fix weather strip and miscellaneous trim. The next natural step for completing this project is finishing the front end, which was non-existent when we bought the car since it was a front end damaged car. And while I already got the Chinese body kit fitted pretty well, there's still a laundry list of things left to do to complete this front end. First, I finalized the fenders and bumper installation where they will permanently sit, since all the other panels will be relying on the position of those two things. It is time to move on now to installing the under tray and the little brackets that we need to hold the bumper at the bottom. Bought some steel that we're just gonna bend around. Here it is, one Chinese under tray. I'm not exactly sure how this is. Oh, okay, there's actually a lip for it right here. Oh, dude, that's actually sweet. I was wondering how I was gonna make it flush from the bottom. There's actually a lip for it from the Chinese factory. How about that? Now begins the fabrication of the bumper brackets to connect the front bumper to the subframe, and also to create the floor of the front trunk tub area. Since I don't have any of the OEM brackets and couldn't find them anywhere online, I'm just going off of some pictures I saw of this area and fabricating things to make it work as intended and be plenty strong. And yes, of course the right way to do this is just to buy all OEM new parts, but even if I wanted to spend $400 per OEM bracket, I couldn't install them correctly anyway, since the entire front end is aftermarket with no OEM fittings. So this is kind of the right way to do it on this project. The whole process was pretty straightforward, but it took a long time to do, and I didn't bother adding it to the video, but 2 more McLaren riv nuts stripped themselves out of the subframe, which was frustrating and a total waste of time trying to get the bolts out of them. The previous owner, or the shops that worked on this car before me, didn't give a single F over torquing every bolt they touched. I painted the brackets bronze just because I could. I know the professional color choice here would have been flat black for brackets. But I moved on to the horn assembly and mounting that correctly, since I never have yet, and I couldn't make sense of the bent bracket and the bolt holes that it was supposed to bolt into. Nothing was matching up, only to find out. Well, I think I know what happened. I just took this random bracket off, and I don't even think it was supposed to be attached to this. I think the people who were trying to flip this car actually just started bolting things together to make it look like it was right. And I don't think that was actually supposed to be there at all. It looks familiar. Maybe this is actually, I think this might be a radiator support bracket that is just completely mangled. That is wild, just to add more onto it to flip it. That's insane.
So I finished the horn install, and now with the skid plate / undertray installed, I moved along to fitting the trunk shroud and trunk tub structure for the first time. A bit of trimming was required, but with it roughly fitted in, I can now move on to fitting the hood, the final piece of the puzzle.
I'm gonna move on from this. I'm gonna go ahead and get the hood fitted up. And then when that's fitted up, I can start fitting this up a little bit better. But it fits a lot better since last night, since I trimmed the edge and everything. Some more trimming to do still, but it's getting there.
So now we move on to mounting the hood in its final place. If you guys remember a while back, I mounted the hood before, but it didn't line up at all. I'm using the hinges that came with the car, which I suspect are bent, but I can't be sure. There's a good chance the hinges from the accident were non-existent, so the flippers put some junkyard hinges on, so I'm not sure if they're bent or not. Anyone else would probably buy new hinges, but since I can't verify the hinges are actually bent, and because we're way over budget on this project, you won't be finding me at the McLaren store spending $500 per hinge. No thank you. Anyway, the passenger side of the hood was still way too high, even mounting the hinge at the lowest position in the holes. So I had to modify the holes to go even lower. And I know this is a very unorthodox method, trying to get the hinge mounted lower, but also remember that this hinge mount was broken off when I got the car, and Lord Kurt welded it back on for me. So I can't be 100% sure this whole mount isn't bent too. Rebuilding cars like this sometimes requires some creativity. This whole front end project took me several days of taking panels on and off to make tiny adjustments, and I'm pretty sure that there wasn't a single part that I didn't have to modify to make the needed adjustments. Even the hood latch had to be moved forward a little bit to make it sit in the latch properly. But as time went by, the panel gaps got better and better and ended up looking good enough to me. So when I was satisfied enough, it was finally time to put it all back together for the last time. Anyway, all this body work took tons of time to finish, but in the end, I think it came out pretty well. At least well enough for me.
Just got to Napa and I'm just trying to find this like ball connector bolt thing for the hood strut. See if they have one. After 35 minutes of searching in the back, he found one that looks like it'll work. So let's go slap it in. Let's go ahead and grab these fender liners here. Get these things installed. Finishing up this front end. So these fender liners actually have grates for the airflow to go through from the front. So I have some automotive like grate material that I'm gonna just cut out and just freaking slap. If there's enough bolt points on the actual aftermarket radiator shrouds, then I can just bolt it straight up like this. But chances are we'll have to actually mount this to here somehow, but we'll see. All right, let's figure it out. I just realized I've never actually had the hardware because I've never had the fender liner in here. I was looking for hardware on my table over there, and I only found the rear fender liner hardware because I've never actually had hardware for this because I've never had fender liners in here. All the hardware from the back fender liners are all completely mismatched. Like there's a bunch of just slapped together random different screws in here from the previous owner. Obviously they were doing maintenance and just couldn't find the right hardware for it. So I'm gonna use the OEM hardware from the rear fender liners in here, just temporarily at least, and then just go get a bunch of matching OEM bolts and use it for all the different fender liners. It sure does look nice having a finished wheel well, that's for sure. Obviously, it's not perfect, but the wheel is gonna be covering all of this stuff. The 12C fender liner is a little bit different than 650S. So this spot right here is a little off and this spot right here is a little off. I'll do some more finishing work and probably hide these little corners away here. But honestly, it looks totally fine. You can't even see those little corners unless you're literally down here and the car is another foot off the ground that it's going to be. So at a normal height, when you're looking at it, you can't even see it at all. So in that regard, it really doesn't bug me that much. So if it really bugs me in the future, I'll just tuck those in better. All the hardware I painted black, so it kind of blends in a little bit better. Yeah, came out fine. Let's see if this thing's gonna rub. Obviously, it's not on the ground yet, but I think we're clear, dude. Oh yeah, I think we're totally clear. That looks fantastic. That looks fantastic. Stating the obvious here, panel gaps are not great. This entire front end was from China, like literally mounting brackets, radiator shrouds that mount the headlights, the entire body kit you guys see here, literally everything was made in China. So the body panels are just not going to fit up like OEM. I got them as good as I could, but they're just not going to be perfect. And obviously now that I said that, the hood is not closed yet. And so it actually fits up a lot better than obviously what you're seeing here. But you guys will see that next video. I'm gonna just button everything 100% up and then I'll show you guys the actual panel gaps and everything. Now for something you guys have never seen yet, the hood actually opens like a normal car with the struts installed. So at least for me, that's very, very exciting. Obviously, there's still some more finishing work on this trunk tub. I added some glue between all the different joints. I mean, just by doing that, it's very solid. Like, maybe not in the middle here, but especially around the edges and stuff, it's plenty strong to hold the trunk tub in how it needs to. And you guys can see I mounted the actual floor as well, which is also nice and strong. And it's gonna look like a complete front end once this trunk tub is actually in. Also, yes, I will be taking out this trunk shroud and finishing it off a little bit more. I'll probably paint it and make it look more of a finished piece. But anyway, it's all coming together so well. And just seeing the struts on it and everything, it just looks and feels like a real car. And this is the first time since its accident several years ago that it actually is a complete car again. Also, before I finish this whole thing off, I'm gonna move on to more important parts of the car because I'm gonna have to just leave this open anyway while I'm actually troubleshooting the rest of the faults on the car. There's a good possibility I'm gonna have to access this power steering pump and several other things while I'm getting this thing actually mechanically sorted. But in the end, even though the panel gaps won't be perfect, I think it's going to look close enough to where it's really not that big of a deal. I know. All right, I used a lot of self-tapping screws on this bodywork, but look, there's like no flex in any of these panels. So we are crossing things off the list step by step. That feels very nice, checking these off, that's for sure. Well, those having been checked off, I'm actually gonna add another one. There we go, charge AC system. Forgot to add that to the list. Anyway, that's where I'm gonna have to leave us for this week. I got a lot of bodywork done, which I'm very happy about. It's not fun to do, and it's a lot of the same over and over and over. So I'm sorry about that. It's just, I can't help that, all right. It was several days just trying to get those freaking body panels to line up as close as possible, even though they're still horrible. But it's freaking so close. I'm just trying to get this thing to the home stretch, you know, just trying to get this thing worked out on the road. So next video, I think I need to get an alignment done on this thing before I can actually get the steering angle sensor figured out. I think it's just kind of like, fix me. I have no idea where these wheels are at. So I think an alignment will do a lot for the actual reading of the steering. But besides that, next video hopefully is just the last mechanical problems, figuring that kind of stuff out. At least that's the hope. I'm just glad that the body work's done. It's just, I can finally take a breath. I like not doing body work. Once we get that steering angle sensor figured out, it's gonna take off limp mode. It's gonna deactivate the hydraulic fault, the suspension fault, power steering fault's gonna be gone. There's still a laundry list of things to get done, that's for sure. But in comparison to the rest of the repairs we had to do on this thing, all this stuff is easy in my mind. It just is gonna take a little bit more time to do it. But hopefully I have it done this coming week. That's all that matters. I'm just gonna keep knocking it out as fast as I can, and we're gonna get there soon. So I'm excited to have it on the road. Thanks for joining for another video on the Inja's channel. I very much appreciate you guys being here and watching. Hopefully you're enjoying the final videos of this series. And if you're not, I'm sorry, man. I'll quit YouTube.